All right, and with us right now, we've got Noel Christopher. Noel, you are the Senior Vice President, Portfolio Services and Corporate Development at Renters Warehouse. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here.
So starting off, what is Renters Warehouse? This is a pretty, you've got a big portfolio.
Yes, so Renters Warehouse, it's a really interesting story, but currently where we're at right now, we are a property management company and an investment services company, meaning we service investors in the single family rental space. So whether that's an investor that wants to, that we have on our property management side, so we manage for about 22,000 homes, single family rental, long-term single family rental homes for 14,000 investors in 41 markets, 25 states. That's our one side of the business. Our second side of the business is that naturally, we also help those investors buy and sell those investment properties. We're not a turnkey. We're not a turnkey company. We don't build homes and then resell them. We help investors. We provide more liquidity in the marketplace for somebody who owns a rental home. In the past, if you wanted to sell, you usually go to a realtor. They tell you need to get the tenant out and then fix the home up and sell it to a homeowner. There's 1 million investment property sales that happen every year. So there hasn't been many marketplaces. There's a few other companies like ourselves, Roofstock, really those are the only two that really focus in this space. And we have a marketplace that you can go and put your property on, find a buyer that'll buy it with a tenant in place, and then you can go buy a property in another market. Or if you live in a high cost market, like a lot of people in the West Coast or the coastal cities can't afford to buy investment properties in their markets, so they go and buy in the areas where there's good yields. So those are the two sides of our business: property management and investment.
On either side, no. How long has Renters Warehouse? When was Renters Warehouse founded?
So Renters Warehouse was founded in 2008, and it was founded by a guy named Brenton Hayden. And Brenton Hayden is still on our board and things like that. He's not involved with the company as much, but so he built that company up as a property management company, as well as our CEO, Kevin Ortner, and they were just buying properties, starting to manage them, started a management company from that. And then they started franchising locations. So they became a franchisor. Renters Warehouse became a franchisor and got up to about 30 franchises around the country, which then a private equity group came in, acquired Renters Warehouse. We rolled up the franchises and went from a franchisor, which sometimes the difficulty with the franchises is that you might have the same brand name, but you have a different level of service across different locations. They're not every franchise is like McDonald's where you can have that same level of service. And even in a McDonald's, depending on how it's operated, there's different levels of service. So we rolled up a lot of the franchises, went out and rolled up other property management companies that we acquired and built a centrally managed semi-national property management company. Semi-national meaning that we're very market centric. So if we have a market, let's say like Denver, Colorado, we have that market. If we're not in Rapid City, South Dakota, we're not virtual at this time. We're kind of dipping into that a little bit. So we are centrally managed with the bulk of the management happening in Minneapolis, where we're based out of. And then we have boots on the ground in each of our markets that handle the certain aspects of property management. There's a balance that you have to have. Where you need boots on the ground that know the local market, but then a lot of the back office where you'd normally walk into a property management company and see people processing paperwork and invoices and rent collection and all of those things are handled in our corporate office, including call center, sales, that kind of stuff.
Well, I guess I would say then, that's kind of one of the reasons then that scalability is you've centralized a lot of things that, you don't have to duplicate across, all these markets. That's an advantage. But would you say that the franchise model was really good for expansion?
It was great for expansion. It was a good revenue model. But what's been happening in the past, since really the bottom of the market was in about 2012, institutional funds started buying single family rentals, which to give an idea now, today there's approximately 17 million long-term single family rentals around the country, mostly owned by small investors, mostly owned by people who live close to where they have the property or close to where they live. So institutional funds came in and started buying. The space became more with more notoriety, and it
Yeah.
was the service level wasn't there though. So if you were a fund or you're somebody who owns several properties, let's say you own properties in 5 different markets, you had 5 different property managers with all different types of reporting standards, different levels of service, different ways that they did things, and so there's a very low level of service in the property management business, and there really wasn't anybody focusing on this space that is, I mean, the single family rental space is bigger than apartment buildings, bigger than office buildings, bigger than any other asset class really. So we saw the value in rolling up all of these companies in all these different locations, creating a consistent level of service across multiple geographies, so that now investors that used to come to me when I was working with investors in Chicago and say, okay, what's the next market I need to scale into? I need to buy 100 homes. Well, now you can buy 5 homes in 10 markets, 1 home in 40 markets. Because you're going to get that same level of service, because owning an investment property, the back end operations, how you manage it is the most important factor. It's easy to buy, you can rehab, you can get a tenant in there, but then how do you keep that tenant? How do you defer and keep down your controllable costs? Things like how quickly you release a property, how quickly you respond to tenant issues, things like that are so important. And then the natural thing is also being able to buy comfortably outside of your geographic location. Now you can comfortably go and buy a property and live in California and buy a property in Kansas City, for example, and know that you're gonna have professional management, you have a process in place. And so that whole market is being institutionalized, along with the real estate brokerage business that is being hugely disrupted. The property management investment space is being hugely disrupted as well.
Yeah.
So now there's a place for people to go, and creating liquidity in the market by making it easier for you to buy and sell an asset just is better. So it's all part of it being institutionalized, and it's something that's happened in every other asset class except for the single family rentals. And now it's happening.
Noel, give me an overview of your work then. Like, what do you do? And one thing that I'm really interested in is kind of the visibility work that you do, where, especially particularly on LinkedIn.
Sure.
And how is that a function of your position with Renter's Warehouse?
So I do a couple of things with Renter's Warehouse. I run all of our mergers and acquisitions, mostly acquisitions of buying other property management companies. I handle all of our strategic partnerships, and I work with our larger institutional investors on buying and selling, whether they want to have a multi-channel acquisition strategy in 40 cities where they're buying. So just a side note, there is more money coming into this space than there ever has been.
Yeah,
a lot of people looked at this.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people looked at the single family rental space as a trade where they bought when the market was down, but there is I've not seen this much enthusiasm since 2012 to 15. So part of that is figuring out how to get in front of these medium-sized investors. What we've realized is that the majority of the people that we work with, take away the large institutional funds, are people like you and I. We have a day job. We're mostly on LinkedIn. I mean, these days, if you have any kind of a professional career, you have to be on LinkedIn. And we've seen that that's our target market. Facebook is one thing. A lot of realtors go on Facebook to try to find the homeowner, but we're trying to find people and have a business conversation with them. And doing that through LinkedIn has been very valuable. And LinkedIn has become so prominent on getting content out. Once they introduce video, and then also being able to do the LinkedIn live shows, being able to put your message out to your audience, your connections that you've curated over time that fit the mold. And that's assuming that as you're adding connections to people that are like-minded like you, you can get your message out so quickly. It's so valuable. I mean, it's unbelievable. And in what I do, I don't have a segment of people I'm selling to. It's anybody. They could be working anywhere. So the voice that you have on LinkedIn is unbelievable. I mean, we do Facebook, we do some things on Instagram and all that. But for me personally, I am doing things like this. I'm doing LinkedIn live shows. I'm talking about commentary in the housing market, wading through all of the data that's coming out there, the narratives about recessions and housing crashes and all these different things. And you can get your message out and help people, and without even trying to sell.
Yeah. I have to say that I think LinkedIn has been in a renaissance for more than a year now, a
I
couple of
agree.
years.
Mm-hmm.
And from if you do business with professionals or business owners, I don't, I mean, I just, nothing comes even remotely close to the success that we've had just in networking, connecting with like-minded people. Sometimes we do business together. Sometimes it's, we share ideas. Like, before our conversation, you were talking about how to become a LinkedIn live broadcaster. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with that? Because I am floored. I mean, we're already doing plenty of live streaming, but LinkedIn has not been one. I've just been uploading some videos to it.
Yeah.
But wow, what a
Well,
huge opportunity.
So for one, there's a lot of people out there that put out that they're LinkedIn experts, and some of them are, and some of them aren't. And I found that I had an interesting conversation that I'll tag you in it, that I ended up having with a senior product manager of LinkedIn late Saturday night. Somebody posted something on LinkedIn, and I commented, by the way, weekends are a great time to engage with executives on LinkedIn, by the way.
Wow.
So I started posting these videos every day after I dropped my kids off from school about the housing market and the narrative that was being pushed about a housing crash. This is about a little less than a year ago. And that got a lot of traction. I got contacted by LinkedIn saying, hey, we're going to be doing a LinkedIn Live influencer beta, and we'd like you to be part of that. So I started doing LinkedIn Live shows. And you use a third-party platform, and you're familiar with a few. I use Social Live. You use, I forgot the name of the one you're saying you use, but
Restream.
And so I've been doing shows, weekly shows, where I interview people, whether it's about housing, whether it's about branding and influence. We're going to do a show together sometime, and they're very interactive. It gets pushed out to all my first and second connections, and then it's content that stays on LinkedIn. That people revisit all the time, and it gets pushed on LinkedIn if it hits certain metrics, obviously. And then also I record the content, chop it up, and then use it as more content. It's kind of following that Gary V model: create a long form of content, chop it up. And what I'm finding now with LinkedIn, just as a nugget, is that it used to be a lot of people have been pushing like post as much as you can on LinkedIn, a lot of content. I was talking to a LinkedIn senior product manager just recently, or director recently on LinkedIn. And he was saying that now, because so many people are just pushing stuff out there, it's better to pull back a little bit, post 3 to 4 good pieces of original content a week, and you're going to get more traction. Look, LinkedIn is really good about pushing news articles to you. They're really good about getting you in front of different types of content. You don't necessarily need to repost what was on the national news today. You're better to put some original content, text content. It doesn't always have to be video or have a picture. You can put some text content, engage people. When you're doing videos, you want it to be educational, not informational. So informational meaning like, hi, I'm Noel from Renter's Warehouse, and this is what I do. It is, hey, this is what I think here. I have Josh on. We're going to talk about influencer marketing, or we're going to talk about the housing market, and giving good content. LinkedIn, we can put it up, and it's not all algorithms. It hits certain levels, and people actually look at it and promote the content more. That's why you'll see something that's 3 weeks old that has 100,000 views, because it was interesting content. So,
wow.
It's interesting stuff.
Yeah. And so what content do you think plays really well for LinkedIn Live? You already mentioned like just interesting conversations, but does it need to be super polished? I mean, what do you?
It's polished in a sense of that it's you have good content, but it doesn't have to be polished as far as production. Having the 2/3 and having some of those things. I use some graphics. I'll pull in something that I pulled from housing market data and say, look, here it is. Here's why it is this. Interesting, educational. LinkedIn doesn't want, they say they don't want you to do much metadata and meta type things where you're saying, how do you become more successful on LinkedIn, and then post that on LinkedIn.
Right.
I see people doing that. The ones that get the really good traction is when you're going to give some good nuggets of information, and it's interesting, and each guest has a pretty good following. But I see some people that just put a camera on and they record like just a meeting or something. That's not very interesting. It should be engaging. And and I know you know this better than probably anybody, the brand promotion is you're promoting people. Like the way you promote brands these days, you promote yourselves. So like me out there telling my story, and the story doesn't always have to be business oriented, although it is more focused on business on LinkedIn. It's telling your story of what you're doing and what you're up to. People are interested to see that, and on a daily basis. I mean, I go in spurts, but I post these videos and literally I turn on the camera after I drop my kids off at school and just what's ever on my mind. And it gets interesting traction, better than polished videos. So but you need to, when I post just a video on LinkedIn, I go in and I add captions to it, right?
Yes.
And I add a title,
yes,
things like that. It's not just me in my car in a grainy video. I spend a little bit of time producing it, but the video itself is not overproduced. So
right. What do you use for captions? I came across a service called Capwing, and it's free, Kapwing, and it's free. And it's automated, but then you can easily edit it. It's wonderful. And it's free.
Well, send that to me, because I've tried rev.com, which is pretty good. They take a few days and they're very accurate, or they take a few hours. And then QUICC, they're pretty good. They're instantaneous, but you have to do a lot of editing. I prefer the quicker and doing a little bit of editing. I use Camtasia for my video production, and I can add, if it's a 2-minute video, I'll just do the captions. It only takes me 5 minutes. So
no, I love the user interface. I've tried a few things, and I love the user interface for Capwing, and they just lay it all out. So, and it's pretty accurate, but you just have to go through and like, no, I didn't say that. I said, it's not perfect, but certainly it's really helpful. And again, the biggest thing is just being able to turn it around really quick. Absolutely. Is my biggest thing. So I just give that to someone on my team to do. So. That's great. Well, Noel, thank you. I want to thank you so much. Again, you're the Senior Vice President of Portfolio Services and Corporate Development. Man, I feel like I've just been hanging out with a friend. I'm surprised we don't have a couple drinks right now. And
it'd be nice.
Just geeking out on social media. So
come to Steamboat Springs.
Yep. And so renterswarehouse.com. I really want to thank you for your time today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you on my show sometime soon.
Absolutely. So you can connect with Noel, follow him on LinkedIn, just search for Noel Christopher. And I think if you use that, maybe the keywords Renters Warehouse, you can find Noel, and certainly tap in and watch Noel's LinkedIn live stream. His shows. I'm going to watch it right now. And I got the application open right now as we speak, so I can get mine in. Thanks so much, Noel.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.